Now, I just uploaded a live stream just a few minutes ago. A few minutes. Are we live? Yeah, I just uploaded a live stream just a few minutes ago. And I was about to touch on this point and I held off because I want to dedicate a whole video to this point. And we need to keep this in mind. These are some harsh truths I'm going to deal with on this channel. White people will always view us as former slaves. We need to understand that mentality. Just imagine if you were a member of a group who enslaved another group. That knowledge of that history will always color your perception of those people. The knowledge of slavery will always color white people's perception of themselves, of us. It's going to color their interactions with us, right? They're always going to feel superior to you, even if they like you, people. You gotta understand, a lot of black people, they're fooled, they're deceived when whites are nice to them. They can be nice to you and still believe that they should rule over you. See, when you allow a child to grow up, they're 18, they want to leave, and you want to set them free. You let them out of the home. You don't give them a room in the house or a different room in the house. And that's basically what we did. Rather than actually going free, we wanted a room in the master's home. A slave is finally told, you're free now. Go, here, take this little money, buy your own house, buy your own furniture, live by yourself. How pathetic is it if the slave turns around and says, no, massa, I want to live with you. I want a room in your house. I want you to take care of me. I don't want to leave you. That is black people today. That is black people today. I'm sorry. And it's sad, especially when you accept the fact that these people will always view you as former slaves. They're always going to view you as a group that is beneath themselves. And I'm saying, even if they consider themselves non-racist, there are very few white people, I've talked to a few of them, who will admit this. They'll explain the same thing I'm explaining to you right now. One individual is an older gentleman, but he explained to me how it took him his whole life. He was in his 50s, his late 50s. He explained to me how it took him his whole life to understand his own perception of himself and of black people. And he talked about how it was always shaped by his knowledge of slavery. How can they possibly view you as their equal when they know that they used to enslave you? Think about that. Think about that. Good or bad, they're going to always view themselves as a superior group, right? They were able to enslave you. They feel like they're more powerful, more intelligent. Some might say, no, they're just more savage, more inhumane. But it gave them an advantage to where they could manipulate the quality of your life. And what makes it so bad is that today they're in the position to continue doing it. They are the CEOs, they are the business owners, They are the lawmakers. They are the law enforcers. So they have the power to continue to dictate the basic quality of life for black people, to create laws. And many of these laws, as you all know, are intended to impact black people in a negative way. Right? They're made with black people in mind. Some of them are overtly racist, like that crime bill that punished people who were caught with crack cocaine and gave a real light slap on the wrist for people who take powder cocaine, who sniff cocaine, because they knew that there was a huge difference. That powder cocaine is like exclusively almost used by whites, crack cocaine by blacks. Some of these crime bills are completely racist. Police force itself, as we all know, was created as a mob of slave catchers. Their job was to catch runaway slaves. That spirit is still in their police force today. They get that badge, they get that gun. I'm telling you, the only thing that's going through their mind is the power they're going to have to exercise over black people. Many of these people, all of these racists, they get off on power. They get off on authority. These people get off on being able to tell you what to do. They get off simply knowing that their group is ultimately in charge of this country, not black people. I don't care how many times Obama is the president. They never viewed Obama as the man who's in charge. He's just the mouthpiece for the people who are in charge. And it's nothing for them to elect some black person. And here Obama wasn't even black. It's nothing for them to have some black people as the black person as the president. And it's important to note that Obama was not black. He was biracial. Because I believe if he were a regular black person with two black parents, I don't believe he would have ever been president. And if that did happen, he would have been assassinated, in my opinion. I believe it when I see it. But that means a lot. Not only when someone like Obama is biracial, but his father is not black American. Right? He's from Kenya. So he's not even connected to us. He's not related to us at all. But that knowledge, you got to understand, slavery went on for hundreds of years. It created a certain mentality in black people, a certain mentality in white people, ultimately instilled a superiority complex into white people and an inferiority complex into black people. And it's so pronounced now that even black people look down on other black people and look up to white people. Black people have a very pronounced sickness. Both groups, both blacks and whites, have a pronounced sickness that they need rehabilitation from. Right? It's expressed in different ways. One, superiority, the other, inferiority. But they have to be dealt with. As long as we are integrated, they are going to view it as a situation where one group has to be above the other. There will never be equality, ever. And that's just almost like instinct. You find it in the animal kingdom. You got two different groups of, say, predators. They're always going to be at each other's necks, competing. Hyenas, lions. Really, when predators see each other, they attack. They fight. This is essentially no different. In the minds of these racists, they're always going to view integration as a situation where one group has to be over the other. They will not relinquish their own power and authority and give it to black people. That's not going to happen. You look at how they have done black people to 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 have black people free, set free. Really, black people fought their way out of slavery. The appropriate, proper thing to do would be to compensate these people that you enslaved for hundreds of years. You've been stealing from them for hundreds of years, and you've enriched yourself from their labor. How dare you not compensate these people? The proper thing to do is to cut them off a huge check. Give them land and let them take care of themselves, govern themselves, create their own culture, build their own homes, provide underwear for their own kids, right? Make their own babies' diapers, have their own everything. That is the only solution to the race problem. Blacks need to be able to govern themselves. When you have a group like black people who've been enslaved by white people, any group, if you have a group of people who've been enslaved by another group and it took place for hundreds of years, you will never get those two groups to live peacefully in an integrated society. That type of history won't permit peace between those two groups ever, ever, ever. We got to accept and understand that these people will always, when they look at you, in the back of their mind, they are looking at a slave. The first thing they think is, I used to enslave this person. He or she, they used to be my slave. That is always going to color their perception of you. The history of this country is too corrupt to simply act like it never happened. It's pretty arrogant on our part to say, oh, well, slavery took place for hundreds of years and that process really shaped our mentality, but let's pretend like it never happened. Let's just live together. Let's just be neighbors and pretend it never happened. That does not work. It has not worked. And for as long as we've tried to do that, race relations have gotten worse. Like I tell people all the time, slavery was a form of integration. So integrated, we lived in the same home as white folk. They get to monitor everything we do, and they get off on it. Being able to monitor even our time alone among ourselves, would not let us congregate in large groups, broke us up so that we couldn't communicate with each other. They told us when we work, when we sleep, where we sleep, what we eat, when we eat. They got off on having that kind of control over us, power over us. These are control freaks, power hungry control freaks. And after slavery, they started to realize how miserable they were because they did not have direct control and influence over black people. And integration gave them that control and influence once again. Now, many of them are white nationalists. There are many white nationalists. And these people, according to them, they want the same thing I want. They agree with me that they, as white people, should have their own part of the world. Other people should have their own part of the world. I don't care that they feel superior. All I care about is that we agree. We have no business in the same society. And you look at the nature of integration today, it's almost set up to provoke war between the two races. You're talking about people who were enslaved by another group, and now you actually make videos, pornography, showing that showing these people intermixing. Why is it legal to purchase videos of white men having intercourse with white women when you know full well the number of black men who've been killed in the past for just looking at white women? I mean, that would get you killed not only during slavery, but for a while under Jim Crow, really under the whole duration of Jim Crow. That can get you killed. It can get you killed today. So why would you embrace such a lifestyle? It's like these people make nothing illegal. Anything goes. They have no moral standards, no cultural values whatsoever. They don't exercise any type of self-discipline whatsoever. These are people with no culture, cultureless people, no holds barred, no rule. Do whatever you want to do. That will create a corrupt people, a corrupt population of people. And we cannot flourish under a system like that. Really, no people can. You need values. You need culture. You need to be able, as a man, to feel and live and operate like a man, as a group of men who provide everything you need and want for your group. You cannot be content with operating like children. And that's basically how black people operate in this country under integration, like children. So you can co-sign with integration if you want. You can be content with it if you want. But I'm not going to lie to myself and say that someday people of other races won't see my blackness. Someday people will be colorblind. Because it's going to get worse. What's going to happen is white people, their population is decreasing. And eventually they won't even be on the planet anymore. Their population is decreasing. Everybody else's population is increasing. So what's going to happen when there are no more white people in the world? Well, we're going to be ruled over by Chinese people. And Chinese people are not going to have as much sympathy for you. They don't feel like they owe you anything. You can't send Chinese people on a guilt trip. Right? They're going to exercise violence over black people that we did not think was even possible anymore. They're going to turn back the hands of time. Don't wait until that happens. We need to at least talk about the proper solutions right now. These people will always, and it's not just white people. If you notice, all races all over the planet, they view us as former slaves. You hear them say it all the time. Your ancestors were slaves. They get off on pointing out that our ancestors were enslaved. You will always be seen as former slaves by whites, by Chinese, Japanese, Indians, Mexicans, for as long as you're on this planet. A group like that should live among themselves only. Because any group that is living in an integrated society with people who were former slaves, they're going to feel superior to that group. So if it's Mexicans who replace whites, they're going to feel superior to blacks. Whoever it is, they're going to feel like they should rule over you. Not only that, the whites are going to relinquish power to those people, not to black people. So we need to wake up and accept the reality of the world we live in. They view it as something to be ashamed of, as a curse. These people will always be inferior to other groups who were never enslaved. You will never be able to break out of this stigma of being categorized as former slaves. That will never happen. And any group who are actually former slaves, they should live among themselves, take care of themselves, and that is the only option for them to exist on this planet.